Yes, ladies and gents, how are we doing? Sam here, United People's TV, kicking off a week a little bit different to last week. Let's be totally honest. That was a doom and gloom week last week. We had City. Who said that? Don't need to speak about that. Man United won a game. Man United, by the way, 3 consecutive away wins in a row. I know it's been against, what is it? Burnley, Sheffield United, and at the weekend against Fulham. But it's a positive result. It's a huge win for Erik ten Hag. That was the result, which was a necessity. Like, sometimes you hear like, oh, we need to win here. Huge week ahead. Now, that game, that win against Fulham was an absolute necessity. I'm going to run through everything from the Fulham game. The reaction from Bruno, from Maguire. We're going to speak about Antony. We're going to speak about VAR. Another weekend where VAR steals all the headlines for all the wrong reasons. How bored are you of this conversation? I'm bored of it. And I'll tell you what, I want to see Ten Hag switch it up and start going on the offensive with VAR. This week, we've got Copenhagen on Wednesday. We've got Luton on Saturday. Before another international break. Is this I think this is the last international break. Is there one in January? Sod knows. Who cares? Anyway, we need to get 2 more wins, especially Copenhagen. Huge game on Wednesday. It just is. Because of the way that this season has gone, these games are far bigger than they need to be. But look, we're going to speak about it as a community. I'm going to speak about also Jim Ratcliffe's investment into Manchester United, a 245 million investment of his own money on top of the 1.25 to buy Man United. I'll run through that full story. There's lots. What we got coming up? We've got Copenhagen on Wednesday. I've got my little schedule up here. Look at that. So organized. But look, it should be a good chat this morning. Certainly better than it was last week. So let me see who's here. Paula, good morning to you. Simon, Anthony. We've got Rofi, George, John, Natasha, good morning to you, and Saeed and Bully. Josh, as always, Ant, you're there too. Sprite, Richard, Stephanie, Anuj. How you doing, Anuj? Andrew and Mania. Who's on Facebook? Let's have a quick look. We've got Siraj. We've got Anderson. We've got John Mort, Chris Win. Chris Win, not Chris Win. Chris Sawnby. Terence Layton, Josie Graydon, and Jerry and Wayne. Good morning to all of you. I can't give everybody a shout out. I'll be here all day. I just list names off. But it's always good to see regular faces and new faces. Now, first thing I want to say quickly from the result yesterday, I just want to say congratulations to Heath Chong. Huh? Big up to Heath Chong. Once a red, always a red and all that. Scored. Man, you were watching that game. Liverpool against Luton. You were like, hold on. They didn't hold on. It was pretty awesome to see Luis Diaz. Talk about like mental fortitude to be able to do that. Sometimes we speak about that with football players. I think Harry Maguire has shown some serious mental fortitude as well. I'm going to speak about him later in the show. But big up to Tahith Chong. Luton taking 2 points off Liverpool. Nice. Of course, we play Luton on Saturday. You're looking at that team there. I mean, United have got to be dispatching Luton on Saturday. But we don't need to speak about that until later in the week. But big up to Tahith for doing that. And I kind of want to waste no time. Because this... this game against Fulham, I'm so annoyed. I had a ticket to the game, but I couldn't go to the game in the end. I had to give it to my mate Chris. We'll speak about it on the podcast later on today. That game against Fulham, because of the context of the season so far, because of the context of the week we had before with City and Newcastle, and all the stories that came out post-Newcastle, Ten Hag is losing the dressing room. Ten Hag is the player powers there. Players are upset with how Ten Hag, or disagree with how Ten Hag handled the Sancho situation, the Maguire situation. There were question marks about Rafa Varane, whether he was annoyed with Ten Hag after he was dropped against City. Like every single place, every single direction you looked, it was sort of like there was something negative trying to take us under. And you know what? There's one photo from this weekend which I think sums everything up. And it's that one there. It's like a Renaissance photo, that one. Bruno Fernandes, just sheer and utter relief after scoring that injury time winner for United against Fulham. I have to say, I think United were slightly better against Fulham. We'll speak about the game tactically in a little bit. I'm going to run through exactly what Ten Hag said. But sheer relief. My word, it's just like, oh, thank God. that's what I felt. That's what I was doing, celebrating that goal as well. 2 years in a trot that we've got injury time winners against Fulham at Craven Cottage. And it was a massive release because I don't really know what the what would the I don't know what to think about it really, but what the sort of what the stories would have been had United just drawn 0-0 there. Let me go down and see what you're saying in the comments. Palistri's got to start next game. We'll speak about Antony later in the show. Captain and teams relief. Captains and team relief, says Stephanie. That is absolutely that. Bruno Fernandes. Jeez. You know, anybody who's followed United People's TV for long enough will know how much I continue to defend Bruno Fernandes. And I'll speak about Bruno in a bit more depth later on. But yeah, I know he's frustrating and I know he has his flaws. Just like every single footballer. There is no perfect footballer, first of all. Second of all, I wouldn't take him out of my team. He would be probably the first name in that team sheet every single week he is fit for me. And I don't think that will ever change. The best signing that we've made post-Fergie, and it's not particularly close. And there was a banner in the away end, which sort of everybody seemed to see. Scott McTominay spoke about it. And I'll be completely honest, right? I'll be completely honest. United weren't incredible against Fulham. All right? I was watching the commentary. Jermaine Genius. How crap is Jermaine Genius as a commentator? Can we just take a little moment to speak about this? He never offers anything. He belongs on TalkSport. Well, Jermaine Genius should be working on TalkSport. Anyway, I don't think United were particularly proactive against Fulham, but I don't particularly think Ten Hag wanted them to be. I think everything was a bit more simplified. I'm going to speak about the tactics down there. Richard, it would have been the Night of the Long Knives. Oh, geez. I recognize that. I know that reference. Anybody? Night of the Long Knives. Oh, dear. Well, not oh, dear. Probably shouldn't have spoken at that conference. Anyway, let's move on. What are we saying down here? I've got confused myself there. Bruno is the key. We'll be lost without. Hey, look, I'm not saying that Bruno was perfect. Jeez, man. Bruno was not perfect in any way, shape, or form. But you know what the madness is of this, right? We have had, by all accounts, an absolutely atrocious start to the season. Like atrocious. Yeah, look at this. Man United there, 6 points off Arsenal in top 4, right? Now, if we look at what's gone on here, we've lost to City, we've lost to Spurs, we've lost to Arsenal, we've lost to Brighton. We've lost to every team that we've played above us so far this season. But Man United have been absolutely... Has there been one Premier League game? So we've won 6, right? Have there been any of those 6 wins that have been comfortable? I don't really know. I don't really think so. If you're looking at those 3 wins that we've had in the last 5 games, they've all been by 1 goal. But Man United, after all the injuries, after all the disconnects in the team, after all the murmurs and the whispers and Ten Hag struggling with the system, and there's so many things. We're only 6 points off top 4. And the madness is, right? This is what it is about football in and fine margins. If that one decision from Garnacho against Arsenal, the millimetre decision, which could easily have gone the other way, and it would have been just as contentious an argument, we'd be level on points with Arsenal. And if you compare that to last season, right, after 11 games, I don't know why I keep seeing this meme going around on social media saying, oh, look, we're on the same amount of points as we were last season. How about you just go and do a bit of research? And then we weren't. We're 2 points behind. 2 points off where we were last season. You just got to look at the tables yourself. It's mad how people just look at stuff on social media and go, that's the truth. I'm not going to do a little bit of research and see whether that's the true or not. And that's how fake news and all that spreads. It's weird. Anyway, so we're only 2 points off where we were last season. But let's not try and pretend that it's been all rosy, because it's been far from it. I think the thing that the main positive I'm taking from that performance at the weekend is probably the fact that we were still going for it in the last few minutes. I don't know whether a team that is downing tools, hypothetically, of course, I don't know whether a team that is downing tools or players that aren't playing for their manager, I don't really think you score last-minute winners. Did it against Brentford. Obviously, Onana with the penalty save against Copenhagen. And then there against Fulham. I just don't think that you get those last-minute winners, that you have the drive as a team to do that if you really have just down tools. He is fighting for it. And you know what I saw yesterday? I thought it was a little nice little thing. And I'm going to move on. I'm going to speak about what Erik ten Hag said after the game. I saw this. So the players all went out for dinner last night in Manchester. And this is just Erik ten Hag doing what he can to sort of stem the tide of negativity about this team. A team dinner there, bringing everybody together. It might not make an impact. But that's Ten Hag trying, as a manager, to try and bring everybody back closer together. Now, you can let me know what you think about the game in the comments, what your big talking points are, and we can go on and we can speak about it. For the next 15, 20 minutes or so, we'll focus on everything from the Fulham game, from the game itself, the tweaks we saw, and Ten Hag's reaction. I can see down there, Chris, being the icon that he is, gifting 5 memberships to kick start the week. That was a good gong, that one. That was a good gong. Right, let me go down here. Linton, you're talking about, I mean, it is team building, man. Was Sancho there, says Klein? I doubt it. I doubt it very much. I don't know why Sancho would be there. Would Sancho be there? If Sancho was there, well, if Sancho was there, it would be the first thing that it would be the first photo that gets released anywhere. So you're going to have to presume that he wasn't. Pranav, it's not about where we are. Last season at this stage, we lost the first 2 games in City. We have wins against Liverpool and Arsenal. We were playing really good football. Last season, the start of it was woeful. And then we had 4 wins on the spin. And that was when Ten Hag went pragmatic. He switched his style. We started playing more direct. And Ten Hag, he's kind of piecing things together. One thing I've really learned about Erik ten Hag is he's far more adaptable than I thought he was as a manager, which can be a strength and can be a weakness. It depends how you use it. I think tactical adaptability and versatility is a strength. But if you go too far down the adaptability and you start losing your own sort of focus and principles, that's when people start questioning you. And Ten Hag, I'm sure you saw it before the press conference. In fact, that might well be my video today. Ten Hag, on his identity, on his style of playing and what he sees. Did you see his press conference before the game? Minute speech, quite animated, where he was just kind of defending himself. Now, I did the video last week when I titled the video. I said, I can't believe that Ten Hag said this. And it was about him saying that we will never play like Ajax. And the reason I said that is because it just doesn't sound like, it just didn't really make sense. Not when you look at the signings that we made and the kind of the fundamentals that we set last season. And that's what Ten Hag did when he spoke in those two, kind of making it almost like it's been misinterpreted. And that's why I think I might do that. I think about it. It's good. That'll be a really good lunchtime video today, that one. Look, let me run through what Ten Hag said after the game, right? He said this. He goes, it's a good feeling, of course. If you win, it always is. It is a massive win. It really, really was a massive, massive win. Speaking about the character in the squad, he's like, this team has a good spirit, is strong. They fight for each other, I think, the whole game. But as I said, it was solid. On the ball, we took dominance in the game, and I think pressing. It's not easy against Fulham. They're very good on the ball, but we've got the press right. I think United did get the press right. You know what United did against, let me pull this one up here. Something that we did against Fulham. And because we've been speaking about this, right? We're like, what can Ten Hag do that's like a tactical tweak? And I think we saw that tactical tweak. You saw this system. Man United, all season long, right? Man United have been using the 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, the variants of it, but with one striker, with Højlund as the sole striker. He's been pressing on his own. I'm not sure if you spotted it against Fulham, but you kind of had Bruno and Højlund pressing together. They weren't really pressing, but what they were doing is what teams have done against us, and they were blocking the central lane. Let's see if I got this up here. Let's see if I can draw it on here. Right. So you can see here, that's where Bruno and Højlund were. And by doing that, you forced Fulham to have to play it out here, right? And therefore, you got rid of them playing it centrally there. And by doing that, it forced the ball towards Calvin Bassey. It forced the ball away from probably the strengths of that Fulham team. And it worked. I'll get rid of those. Jeez, that's a lot of lines. It worked. That little tweak, it worked. And I think it was kind of a simpler press that the players understood. And I think Ten Hag, from a management perspective, I think he did well with that. I think it helped. We weren't perfect. We were nowhere near perfect against Fulham. But we aren't going to go from utter garbage against City and Newcastle to perfect in the space of 4 days. Some people might genuinely think that we should be, but that's just not realistic. However, was that a step towards it? Yeah, good. Right. Now we've got Copenhagen and Luton next to see what goes on there. Ah, wow. That was a weird noise I just made there. Should never making that again. I sound like a Simpsons character. Jack, Gungshi, and Alex. What's the name of your band? All of you gifted 5 memberships each. I want a bit. I still have to. One big one. I hurt my ear. Damn. I still want to be doing more for the community, man. I've got an announcement to make this week, by the way. I won't make it just yet. I'll probably make it in a couple of days, but it's quite an important announcement that will change things for the next couple of weeks. But I'll tell you that a little bit later in the week. Alex, you're saying that the box press did work. It definitely worked. I think it was a simpler style, and I think that was kind of what Ten Hag needed to do. But you know what? I want to focus here for probably the next 5-10 minutes or so, before I then speak about Bruno in a bit more detail. I'm going to speak about Maguire in a bit more detail and Antony a bit more detail. I need to have a little bit of a rant, I think. Mr. Erik, you're going to go deaf going on like this. AJ having a go at me for not spanking it for everybody. One for you. Little one for you. Because I think I am going to go deaf. My ear's ringing. That was a loud one. Right, VAR. Jeez. Okay. I did my video yesterday. You may have watched it. You may not have watched it. I'll speak about that in a sec. This here, I mean, that's 2 weeks on the trot where Man United, it feels, have got a decision which is just like, huh? What even is that? Like a subjective offside. Maybe I'm just ignorant, but I've never heard that phrase before. The first time I'd ever heard that was in the commentary in the Fulham game. Right? I don't know if maybe I'm just ignorant. Maybe I didn't know about it. You can let me know in the comments. But Harry Maguire was adjudged to be interfering play, despite the fact that nobody was marking Garnacho anyway. They decided to leave Garnacho on his own. So it's not as if somebody chose to mark Maguire and therefore didn't mark Garnacho. No, they just didn't mark Garnacho. Simple as that. Yet it gets ruled out. And that one there was a goal within 8 minutes. And that one there changes everything, because that would have forced Fulham's system to be far more spread from the 10th minute. United, I think, would have gone on to win that game really comfortably after that goal. But alas, it didn't. And then, of course, this happened. And you look at this was the Newcastle goal, which was subject to not one, not two, but 3 different VAR checks, all in the same goal. And they decided, quote unquote, with this camera angle here, that there wasn't conclusive evidence. There wasn't conclusive evidence that that ball had gone out. Yet there was conclusive evidence for the exact same scenario at United, at Old Trafford. Rashford against Brighton. Højlund scoring on his Premier League debut. I mean, the exact same situation. Pretty much bang on. Ball is absolutely level. Neither of them are conclusive. Yet VAR has decided on one occasion that it's inconclusive, and on the other occasion that it's conclusive. VAR as a system is absolutely atrocious, right? And although I do think Arsenal releasing a statement was a bit of a weird flex. Have you seen that? Arsenal actually released a statement saying they support Mikel Arteta. I mean, I think Mikel Arteta was right to call it out. And that's what I want to see Erik ten Hag do. But Arsenal releasing a statement on it was just a bit weird. Ten Hag, look, we speak about marginal gains in football, like not in football, but in sport, elite sport. When you're right at the top, that 1% here, that 2% there can make all the difference. And I don't think Ten Hag is Premier League street smart yet in genuinely how influential a manager can actually be. Jurgen Klopp, and I did this in my video yesterday. Jurgen Klopp, when he spoke about Man United getting too many penalties, and since then, Man United are by far and away, it's not even close, how few penalties Man United get compared to every other team in the top four. And you might say that's a coincidence. I would say it's not. Malp's just saying it's not VAR, it's the buffoons running it. No, it's absolutely both. The whole process, the system itself. The only I always remember it. I think it was a World Cup where it was an automated system that worked on key decisions only. Offsides, goals, and it was automated. There was no black and white about it. There was no subjective offside decisions. VAR this season has hurt Manchester United more than any other team. That's facts. That's numbers. I think we're from a net goal difference, we're -4, -5 compared to, well, yeah, we're by far and away the team that has been impacted the most. If you're looking at the Hoyland goal that was scrapped off, is it Evans against Burnley? Contentious. Every single decision has been ridiculously contentious. I want to see Ten Hag take a leaf out of Arteta and Klopp's book and just start imposing himself a bit more, right? He's going to get fines. He's going to get touchline bans probably, but he is absolutely worth it. And I'll tell you what, you were speaking here about team building and team bonding, right? I guarantee you those players will fight a little bit more in Ten Hag's corner if Erik ten Hag was to speak out about the system in public as the manager. Chris, you're saying you want to get Erik banned for a few. This is about risk reward, okay? I think that Ten Hag stands to gain a lot more from the overall camaraderie inside that squad and in terms of influencing the referees than he is to lose by maybe getting a touchline ban, maybe getting a charge or a fine. I want to see him do that. And maybe this is the evolution of Erik ten Hag and how comfortable he is in the environment. And maybe we'll see that. I'm going to see what you're saying about VAR down in the comments. Let me pull this up. Right. We might lose the referee's respect. Dude, what have we got to do with referees' respect these days, man? Chetan, that comment I really do agree with. It's a joke to find managers speaking out with such poor decision-making. It's like some sort of authoritarian system where you're not allowed to say something negative. Like go to North Korea, you can't say anything negative against Kim Jong. It's kind of what it is about the VAR in the Premier League. If you even mention how bad that decision was, you're like, how dare you? How dare you publicly criticize the system? You're going to get put in chains. It's kind of an archaic approach. I think the concept is that you're not allowed to publicly influence the referees, but managers do it all the time. And I think that's just something that Erik ten Hag has to get into his arsenal. I think that will make a difference. It might not make a huge difference. It might. It really, really might not. But look, as I said there earlier, isn't this a bit of a mad one? 3 consecutive Premier League away wins. Burnley, Sheffield United and Fulham. None of them are ones that we should be losing on paper. But Man United away from home has been absolutely garbage. Look at them. All those wins by 1 goal. And I go back to this, right? Man United, it's almost... I mean, it's impressive, really. but not in a wow, you're good way. Like, we're 8th. We're level on points with Brighton. And we've scored half the amount of goals as them after 11 games. Man, Brighton's defence is poop. They must be getting some like high score draws. We're going 2-2. There you go. 1-1. 1-0. 6-1 they lost. Jeez. It's almost impressive. But my God, we need to start creating more. Jeez. Højlund, I think I saw a stat the weekend. I don't know whether it's completely true or not, but I can tell you from the eye test, Højlund is getting starved of service. Antony's doing a sweet FA on that right wing. And Garnacho is just getting doubled up on because we've not got an overlapping fullback. We are not getting any service into him, man. No wonder he got frustrated when he came off on the weekend. And the reason he keeps coming off is because Ten Hag keeps managing his game time. I'd rather have Højlund play 75, 80 minutes every game than play the full 90, pull up with a hamstring injury in the 92nd minute and then be out for 4 weeks. Which one of those are you going to moan about more? Alex, same words, summing it up, togetherness, United. Wow. Man, that was a big win. Big win at the weekend. There's so many more talking points that we need to run through from this game. I'm going to speak about this man next. Jack, you're saying new rule offsides against United for previous games. Something's got to change with VAR, man. I don't know what it is. I really, really don't. Because it's just going to be apology after apology. And I'm speaking about this from a United perspective. Of course, I've got my red tinted glasses on. But this is a Premier League-wide problem. It's just a crap system that is just getting worse. The more they try and tweak and improve it, the worse they're making it. Which is kind of hilarious when you think about it. I'm Potato saying they keep finding new and exciting ways to disallow our goals. VAR's remit needs to be narrowed to goal line, off the ball stuff and fun. VAR's remit at the beginning, dude, was about clear and obvious errors. That was the conversation that was surrounding VAR at the start. And it's been widened and it's not worked. Can you narrow it back down? Yeah, sure, you can narrow it back down. But then the players don't know what's going on. No one seems to know what's going on. If you ask me to give a 10-minute presentation on VAR and what the rules are, I'd be screwed. I would have no idea what to tell you. I really wouldn't. Now, I want to go back to the game here and speak about 3 players who I'm going to focus on. Bruno, Maguire, and then Antony. All right? And I'm going to focus on Bruno first. Let me have a drink. I love Bruno, man. I love Bruno Fernandes. I'm telling you that he is pretty much the first name on my team sheet every single week he's fit. I'm not sure. Who would be, curious question. Who would be the first name on your team sheet? Everybody's fit, everybody's available, and everybody's on form. All right? Everyone's on green arrows in PES 6. If you know, you know. Who is your first player on the team sheet? And I'll read out what your answers are down there. For me, it's Bruno Fernandes. I'll be totally honest. I know it's not even close. I say it's not even close. I'll probably have Lissandro down there, pretty damn close to him. But I think it would be Bruno. Let me go down here. What you're saying? Josh, you're saying Bruno. Matt, you're saying Bruno. Ashwin, you're saying Martinez. So's and Wayne, you're saying Martinez. Rakesh, Kelechi, you're saying Martinez. A couple of you saying Mason Mount. Nah, not for me. Not first name on the team sheet. Just like first name. Varane, couple down there. Onana, Luke Shaw. Evans. That's a good question, though. I would say probably it's got to be pretty close between Bruno and Martinez, and I think I can understand that. Man, I think you now understand why my crush on Martinez was so hard last season. Once that got off. Yeah, the Lurgy's back. But Bruno Fernandes, when we needed him to, when his manager needed him to the most, he stepped up against Fulham. I'm going to go back to that photo that I showed you at the start. Actually, no, it's right there. Wait, that's some zoom in. It's a little bit too much Zoom. Let's go for that. Hoi, Bruno Fernandes is... Was it last week Roy Keane was saying he's not the right captain? Gary Neville was questioned. I don't get why Gary Neville was... He's really not helped Bruno Fernandes with his comments on him in public. I remember after the Liverpool game, that game at Anfield, he was absolutely... What is it that he said about Bruno Fernandes that wasn't actually correct? I can't remember what it was, but Gary said something on commentary, which was like a... Why would you say that without knowing? And then it came out that it wasn't correct, but Gary had already said it, and then it kind of influenced people. And then Roy Keane coming out saying he's not the right captain. There are aspects of Bruno's game that I don't think will ever leave. I was hoping, that was it. He was saying that Bruno Fernandes wanted to come off. That was the one. Gary Neville, I saw quite a few of you mentioning Gary Neville earlier, is Gary Neville in his sort of... He's edging towards being a politician, right? That's kind of what it feels like. And to be a politician, you have to... Well, not all politicians, but a lot of politicians do these days. Is they walk the fence. They walk between two lines, try not to offend anybody and just trying to keep everybody on side. That's what Gary Neville has done with his commentary now. Like he was accused of being biased so much at the start of it, and he became so acutely aware of it that he's trying to not be biased now and trying to... And it's just a lot of this. You're like, what are you talking about, Gary? He speaks a lot of sense sometimes. Sometimes he doesn't. But yeah, especially with Bruno. I love the bloke, man. And yeah, he's got his flaws. When the chips are down, he will have petulance. Petulance will come out. And I do think that reflects on the rest of the squad, because if the captain can get away with it, then how can you stop the others getting away with it? And that goes down to Erik ten Hag and trying to coach that out of him. I was hoping that Bruno getting the armband would help him to mature as a footballer. I think he has in some regards, but also not in others. And I still think there's quite a bit of development for Bruno to go to properly be a true leader. But he leads by example sometimes. Quite a lot of the time, actually. Terms of application off the ball and terms of application in the game. And he came up with the goods there. Let me see what you're saying down there. Bruno's not a winger. Jeez, boy. You know what I think about Bruno on the right wing. I've hated it since day one. What are we saying down here? Rashford's future in doubt. Could he be the... Who's talking about that? Rashford's future is in doubt. That's not. That's madness. Need to stop playing Bruno out of position. What are we saying down here? I love Bruno, but he's been... Yeah, Bruno will never be a retention-focused midfielder. He'll never really be part of a patient, passive passing system. He's a transitional player. I'll be honest. I firmly believe that Ten Hag, when he came out with the comments about making United the best transition team in the world, it was Bruno Fernandes at the absolute center of his thinking. Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford. In Ten Hag's eyes, they are the two players I think he was building that team around, and getting the best strengths out of Bruno, the best strengths out of Rashford, was to play an incredible transitional game. And I think Bruno is look, we could talk about this all day long. You can argue all you want about, Bruno's a right captain, Bruno's a wrong captain. And then I'll quickly stop you in your tracks when I say, okay, who are you going to replace him with? Because you will not have an answer. Because there is not an answer. Bruno Fernandes is the best choice captain that we have currently, and I wouldn't change that. Somebody who I think we definitely need to speak about here is this man again. My mate, Chris. Chris from the pod. If you did listen to the pod last week, Chris made his debut. I think he'll make another appearance tonight. Asked the question in the build-up to the game on Saturday. I'm going to ask you the question as well. Who do you think has been our play? I suppose you might say it's a little bit different after that game against Fulham. But he said before the Fulham game, who has been your player of the season so far? Or I'm not even sure if you can ask the question in that sense. Like, who do you think has been United's best player? Because there hasn't really been a player of the season. I mean, someone has to be the player of the season, right? But who do you think has actually been our best player? Answer on a postcard. It took me ages. I was sitting going, I think, who did I say? I think Maguire was genuinely part of the conversation, and I couldn't really deny it, simply because of how poor everyone else has been. Sorry. I thought Delo could have been part of the conversation, but he saw his performance against Newcastle. No one's been pulling up trees. It was a really, really hard question. But I genuinely do think, Simon, he's saying poll it down there. There isn't a standout option. I can't poll every single player. But I think your hesitation here in the comments is exactly the hesitation I had. But Maguire, right, looked like he got some sort of concussion quite early on. I think he headbutted someone's shoulder quite heavily, went down. Didn't really look like he knew where he was. Someone's looking through you at something else. That's kind of what it looked like with Harry Maguire. And I will reiterate this again and again and again and again. Harry Maguire is, and always has been, a very good defender against teams that will not press Manchester United intensely. It's the truth. Unfortunately for Harry Maguire and Manchester United, the top level teams in world football now pressing. I'm not sure pressing was always a major thing, but it's certainly a major thing now. City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, they're not going to give Harry Maguire any time on the ball. And that's when Maguire's weaknesses and his sluggishness and him always lunging into tackles, that's when that comes out. But Harry Maguire has been very consistent in these last few games. And you know full well how much I have slated him. But isn't it like at a time when Ten Hag is fighting for his position, that it's the likes of Maguire who have been stepping up, McTominay stepped up with goals. Who else has stepped up? Bruno stepped up with an important goal, of course, against Fulham. But Harry Maguire, all credit to him, man. I think he's shown that he can be an asset to this United team in the right games and right environments. Right? If we go to Liverpool away, I don't want Maguire in that team. But if we play in Luton at home, I want Maguire in that team all day long. Maguire against Copenhagen scored a goal, didn't he? Let me see what you're saying about Maguire down here. Ten Hag's playing pragmatic football, defending deeper. Yeah, these things are helping Maguire play well, but also his progressive passing's been good. His aggression is good. You know, that's always a thing that really pissed me off the most anytime I watched Maguire previously, when he used to lunge into tackles, miss the tackle, take the player out, and sometimes leave a gap right behind him, 30 yards away from goal. But credit where it's due. That's what I say about people. I can criticize someone, you can criticize, we can all criticize people when they deserve to be criticized. I've never really taken the criticism of, I don't think I have anyway. There's going to be people that disagree with me. I know that. I think I've always kept my criticism of Maguire to do with football. Now, it became more vicious when the tailspin got faster, and the things that Harry Maguire was saying in public, I don't think he was helping himself. But I've always kept it about the football. And from a footballing perspective, Harry Maguire has really stepped up, and I think deserves the praise. On the flip side, need a drink for this one. Antony. Oi. I personally feel like I've checked out with Antony now. I think Antony is going to go down as the... I hope so anyway. We're going to be speaking about Jim Ratcliffe very shortly, actually, in a really, really important conversation around the investment that's going to be happening. Antony has to get dusted from this team. Boy. Issue is, he is Ten Hag's boy. We went after him. We went after him double hard, and we paid twice as much as we should for Antony. He was a £40 million signing. Last season, when Antony was breaking through, right? There were a lot of people that were angry about his final product being too inconsistent. But Antony came up with, what is it, like 7-8 goals in his first season? I think he impacted a lot against Barcelona, Arsenal. There were some other big goals. City away. Remember that goal against City away? Woo! That counted for nothing. Antony had his moments last season. He hasn't had one moment this season. At all. And he is the definition of why we need to take transfer responsibilities away from our coach, our head coach, who is an Erik Ten Hag. That's what he should be focusing on. Ten Hag, in his time at Ajax, Antony was probably the best right winger that he had worked with. Or maybe Hakim Ziyech. It depends on any Ajax fans can let me know in the comments. But he was so confident about his work at Ajax, he thought he can do it at United. His head seems to be obviously distracted by what's going on off the pitch with the domestic abuse allegations that keep happening. But Antony's got to get out of this team, man. Pellistri came off the bench. Now, Pellistri, earlier this season, can't remember when it was, but he started, was it 2 games in a week? Premier League game and a Champions League game, I think it was. Was it away at Bayern Munich where he started? And everyone was kind of surprised. And Pellistri just didn't look ready. Physically, kind of getting pushed off the ball. And it's a little bit of how I see Garnacho. Whenever Garnacho is such an incredible player, man. But more often than not, when I see Garnacho start a game, I think he's incredibly more impactful off the bench. And I think I'll probably apply the same thing to Pellistri. But Antony's got to get out of this team, man. I don't personally feel that it will turn around for Antony, but I'm sure I was pretty strong in saying that about Harry Maguire, and he's found his way back into the team with United playing a slightly different style. I'm going to go and read a few of your comments out around Antony. One sec. Right, what are you saying? Both Garnacho and Pellistri are more effective from the bench. It's a comment that I personally would agree with. But I think we need Pellistri in the starting 11 now, or Mason Mount out there. I think Mason Mount out in that right wing needs to be tried far more than Erik Ten Hag is doing at this moment in time. Off-field issues, I'm sure, affecting Antony. Where's the improvement from the date? Last season, I thought there was development from Antony from where he was on day one to where he was at the end of the season. I thought Antony had become a slightly better player, but any hint of progress has gone out the window. He's so easy to defend against. There's no service into Højlund. Antony's got to be dropped from this team, man. But you want to... One sec. Jeez. Something that came out over the weekend that made me laugh. Like, have you ever seen a transfer rumor more made up than that? Antony playing poorly. They're thinking, right, you know what? Who plays for... Who's a Brazilian striker? One sec. Gabriel Barbosa. Yeah, that'll do. What do you reckon? Like, him's going to to Man United in January. Maybe Antony going the other way. Yeah, United are really going to loan out a player that cost 85 million. Okie dokie. Of course, people lapped it up. No doubt other channels covered it as a main story. Yeah, really. That's what United are going to be doing right now. Right now, as we're going through a takeover situation, we're going to be planning to loan Antony out in January after a crap game. Come on. Anyway, I don't know what Ten Hag... Well, I know what Ten Hag needs to do with Antony. He needs to be dropped for sure. I personally would start Mount on the right wing and bring Pellistri on. But there's a lot of you down there that will think that Pellistri should be starting. And I can understand why. But look, after the week we had, after the week Ten Hag had, that wasn't a perfect response against Fulham, but it was a response. Now, we wanted the Brentford game to be the turning point for the season. It wasn't. It wasn't. That I'm not going to just call it it needs to be a turning point, because it's not a turning point anymore. I don't know what to describe it as. But it was a game where there was so much pressure internally, externally on Erik Ten Hag, and the team delivered. Now we need to kick on, kick forward, whatever you want to call it. We've got Copenhagen next, which is a must-win game because of how crap we've been the first 2 games of the Champions League. And then Luton on Saturday. But there's one thing I want to speak about before we end this show, and that is, of course, the Takeover. Who you know full well, this is so much more significant and important than any game against Copenhagen or Luton or Fulham or anybody, is the Takeover. And this story came out of the weekend. All right. This is from Mark Kleiman. 1 second there. That's better. Mark Kleiman, who is the city editor for Sky News, business sector. And he was the man who first led with the story of the Man United strategic investment alternative statement coming out. It was his story that I went live with, and I remember that. And he's saying that I'm going to read through the article, that Jim Ratcliffe is going to be pledging a £245 million investment from his own money on top of the 1.25 billion that will be the 25% takeover. And my first thing to say to you here, because I know, look, I've seen the reaction everywhere. 245 million is not enough. Qatar this. Qatar that. First things first, that right there is 245 million pounds more than the Glazers ever fucking put into Manchester United. And this is before day one of even owning 25% of Manchester United. That is a step in the right direction. In the same way that I don't think United can go from getting whipped by Newcastle to all of a sudden being an incredible team against Fulham. That's not going to happen in the space of 4 days. Man United are not going to go from, well, some of you may have argued that going to the Qataris would have been that, but that's not going to be the case there. But going from no investment from our owners ever to Jim Ratcliffe doing that is a start. And I tell you what, and this is, I need to do my research into this, right? I need to do my research into this. I'm pretty sure that that has a massive impact on the FFP that Manchester United are under, because when you get owner investment, it means that your losses can be far more significant over a fixed period of time compared to what they are before. I need to know the exact phrasing of it all and how it works. But let me read through a little bit of this article and we can speak about it in the comments. Dan saying, could it be just paper talk? This is not paper talk. All right, this is coming from Mark Kleiman, as I said, the man who was leading with the whole story at the very beginning. It's not paper talk. This is just details about the story that's coming out before it happens. All right, that's what I was saying. This you can absolutely trust. Jim Ratcliffe is to commit 245 million from his own fortune as part of a deal to acquire. And it says there, look, where is it saying down there? Sky News can exclusively reveal that Sir Jim will pledge the investment alongside the acquisition of a shareholding. Sources said on Friday the 245 mil investment will be staggered, with the bulk of it being handed to the club by the end of the year. And you know what I would say about that? I would say for anybody who has fears, and I think everybody is justified to have these fears, right? And that I would definitely say, anybody who has fears that Jim Ratcliffe will never be able to take 100% ownership of the club. I think this conversation should make you feel a little bit better. Because not only is it now going to be Ineos investing, of course, Jim Ratcliffe is one of the owners of Ineos, so he owns a big percentage of that company. I have no idea how much percentage he owns, but it's his company that he started. Jim Ratcliffe actually putting in his own money, he would only, in my opinion, and this is an opinion, right? This isn't based on fact. In my opinion, Jim Ratcliffe wouldn't be putting £250 million of his own cash into something he didn't have a massive confidence that he's going to own at the end of it. That's the way I look at that. Now, I don't know if you're reading down here about what that money is going to be put into. They speak about investment. Let's have a quick look. Right, go down here. Where is it? It says it down here somewhere. It's a bit of a big old article. There you go. One source close to the talks said the additional $300 million, £245 million investment would be focused on United's physical infrastructure and not on addressing the deficiencies on the playing side of the club. So if it was physical infrastructure, then that's nowhere near enough. Nowhere near enough. You're looking at somewhere in the big old ballpark of £1 to £2 billion worth of investment to get Old Trafford to where it needs to be. But you know full well what I've said the entire way through. What's a more important and prevalent problem at Manchester United? It's not Old Trafford. It's Carrington. It's the training ground. That is the bigger problem that needs addressing before we even talk about having a new, sexy, shiny stadium. And maybe that amount of money would be enough for... I actually have no idea how much... I need to do some research into this. Anybody have any idea how much Leicester's training ground cost, by the way? That was the one that was designed by McLaren. Looks wicked. Surely that's less than 300 million. And if that was for Carrington, I would be delighted about that. I would be delighted. And it should be said here, again, this is not going to be... Look, this is all going to be financed by Sir Jim Ratcliffe personally, and it would not be added to Manchester United's existing borrowings. We still don't have the questions answered about debt. There are so many questions that need to be answered still around this takeover because, well, the takeover still hasn't been ratified yet. Someone's saying 100 mil for Leicester down there. I don't know how much. I would guess somewhere between 1 and 200 mil for Leicester's new training ground facilities. So a little 300 mil, well, 245 million investment from Jim Ratcliffe would be enough. Now, there's going to be people that just are so upset that United didn't get taken over by Sheikh Jassim that they just refuse to see anything positive, and they won't see anything positive. Cool, man. You do you, all right? You do you. And I'm not going to tell you how your opinion should be shaped. Of course, I'm going to try and influence. I'm going to try and help steer you towards probably my opinion. Not all the my opinion is not right all the time. Yes, it is. No, who am I kidding? Opinions, that's the beauty of opinions. They can't really be right or wrong. It's just down to the eye of the beholder. I see this as a big positive. I have to see it as a positive. The idea that we're going to have an owner putting £245 million of his own cash into the business, that creates accountability. That's why the Glazers have always been able to distance themselves from Man United. It's never been their money. If they lose, it's the bank's money. They don't care. If you buy, right, if you get given a car that costs 10 grand and you buy a car for 10 grand, which one of those two cars do you think you're going to look after the most? Which one of those two cars do you think you are going to care about the most and make sure that nothing happens to it? You know exactly which one. The one that you have put your own 10 grand into. Personally financing something changes your relationship with it and makes you want it to shine that little bit brighter. And that's why I would see the positive there of Jim Ratcliffe putting some of his own cash into it. It's not enough. Is it a start? Yeah, it is a start. But look, let's see what goes on. We're being told, if I go down here as well, by the way, in terms of when the takeover is going to happen, there was a little bit of information in here. Where is it? There you go. The deal is expected to be announced within a fortnight, although negotiations between Sir Jim's team and the Glazers are ongoing, meaning that could change. But Sky News is saying this was released on Friday. They're saying it should be announced within a fortnight. So maybe by next Friday, we could get an announcement of that deal. And when we get that announcement of the 25% deal, that's when we get far more clarity on the plans. Because I absolutely expect Jim Ratcliffe to be quite vocal. If you see what's going on with Nice, he's spoken directly to the Nice fans on at least one occasion, if not two. And Nice, by the way, now they're top of the league again. They won at the weekend. Ineos have made some big old mistakes at Nice, but they corrected a lot of them after they brought in Jean-Claude Blanc and they brought in Florent Gastolfi as a sporting director. Is it Farioli? I think it is, as a new manager. They've started to get their ship in order, and Nice now are definitely stronger than they have been at any point under the Ineos ownership. That's it for the Monday show. I think it was a pretty positive show overall. Big up to everybody, Gungshi, to Jack, to Chris, to Alex, and anybody else who gifted memberships. You're all legends. We need that win against Fulham. We've now got look, Copenhagen and Luton games, man, should not be huge games for United. They should be the ones that you just swallow up and you move on. But they're huge because of how bad we've been this season. The significance of this if we don't win against Copenhagen, who knows what goes on with this group. But that Ratcliffe situation, I'll speak about that a little bit more. We've got a starting 11 for the Copenhagen going out tomorrow. I think I want to do my video today on Ten Hag really being more clear about his identity. Big up to all of you. Thank you all for tuning in. Much love. I'll be here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Make sure you drop a like on the video. It does make a big difference. I know not everybody does, but it does make a big difference. And I'll see you soon. Take it easy.